From project reviews to incredible interviews, along with the general things in Web3, CraigO's Crypto Corner covers the space in a fun and engaging way. We dive in so our listeners can conceptualize, plan, strategize, and implement their very next move. We are quickly becoming a platform that enriches and supports the overall foundation of Web3. In order to grow, you need your voice to be heard. If you have infinite curiosity, then CraigO's Crypto Corner is just for you. Come join us.
You're tuning into CraigO's Crypto Corner, the best in Web3, blockchain, NFT, and cryptocurrency technology. Great reviews, incredible interviews with the leading people in the Web3 ethos, and just the general things Web3. First, let me welcome everybody into Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter Spaces. We're going to keep that popping tonight, 8:30 p.m. And I first want to welcome in my co-host, Mr. MetaMat Trades in the Metaverse. What's up, my friend?
How are you doing? Good to see you.
It's going to be a fun and exciting episode. Are you ready?
No, I'm excited. I love the Kid Called Beast party in New York. I'm looking forward to hearing all this.
I hear he knows how to party. All right, so
Yes.
Let's get to it with the Daily Ralpha Weekly Update with my good friend, Ralph Quintero. How are you, my friend?
What is up, Craig? What's up, Matt? Happy to be here as always. Hope you guys are having a great week so far.
We are. And I just want to slide right into it. What's going on in the Daily Ralpha? What are some things that we should be aware of this week?
Two big news stories today. First one being Adidas has indefinitely postponed the highly anticipated collab with Ferocious that was scheduled for tomorrow. Now, this comes after allegations of sexual assault were reported publicly against the artist. Ferocious has said the allegations, and I quote, are untrue, dangerous, and hurtful. So that's a developing story. That was a very highly anticipated mint that was scheduled. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. The second is that crypto's absolutely pumping. Matt must be in heaven right now. Bitcoin crossed 30,000 about half an hour ago. ETH was nearing 1,900. Likely driven by all the news that we've been getting from all of these big institutional players filing for Bitcoin ETFs. And then Fed Chair Jerome Powell today stated that stablecoins are actually a form of money and that the Fed needs to regulate them. So I think all of those kind of bullish signals have been pushing and driving the market forward. Beyond that, art continues to absolutely rip as well. Today's Art Blocks project that was called Dopamine Machines actually sold out of all 777 pieces and had the high sale go for 1 ETH. So continues to make me bullish on art. The only other thing I'll mention, Craig, is Bored Apes and Mutant Apes. They're experiencing some floor price pressure right now. Bored Ape floor price, last I checked, was under 40 ETH. I think it was like 38, 39 ETH, which I haven't seen in a long time. And Mutant Apes were at like 7.5. Which is nuts. But, you know, the question is, are we going to continue to see declines as the week progresses? Who knows? We'll see. That's what's going on. Unless you have any questions for me.
No, you know what? The question that we're going to go into before I do my intro for our upcoming guest is with a kid called Beast, right? That was probably
so excited, man. So excited to have Rafsby
conversation, and he's such a great conversationalist through all the podcasts that I've watched. I remember when that came on, and I actually DM'd you, and I was like, man, I know, I love the art. I know that's like the first thing, but I just like the feel of it. I liked what was going on, and really excited to dive into the ecosystem, talk to him, sort of future plans, what's currently going on in the community. And they showed up strong this week. I mean, we talk about metrics. Maybe I want to figure out a different word for it, but man, just the number of Kid Called Beast that were, followed or just wanted to engage, and tonight showing up in the Twitter Spaces. So it's an honor to have you here. Feel free to tune into the YouTube. But I remember saying, man, this project's going to be very, very big in our community. And it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's been like that since the beginning. So I first discovered the project early September 2022, right? So this was way before the mint. I actually shared it as one of the early project finds in the Daily Ralpha on September 2nd, 2022. And I was actually so impressed with their activity. Like you mentioned, their community and how much activity there and buzz there was around it, that I actually resurfaced the project as an early project find again mid-December, which is something I had never done before. I mean, we're friends. You know kind of what my flow is with the Daily Ralpha. I never repeat projects. That was the only one I've ever done because I was so impressed. Mint was a huge success, even after dealing with a bunch of bots and stuff. So maybe Rafsby will talk about that or not. Yeah. Whatever. It's been very successful since. The team has delivered and over-delivered. The community is super tight, and I can't wait to see what's next. So I'm really looking forward to tonight's episode.
Yeah, speaking of community, really quick, just shout out to all the Kid Called Beast holders listening. I see a whole bunch of people. I see Crad, the co-founder. I see Roma, Juan, Doja, Method. Shout out to all the holders showing up today, like you said, Craig.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And let's make it started off right with a great introduction. And we've got a line of really great questions, and we're going to get them out here at the top of that hour at about 9:30. And we're going to have a great conversation. So let's get to it. If Mickey Mouse and Bart Simpson had a baby, it would be named A Kid Called Beast. Today's special guest is making waves in the world of Web3. Joining us is Rafsby, the co-founder of A Kid Called Beast. His background is in financial and technical analysis, specializing in foreign exchanges and precious metals. Rafsby brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise to the table. He played a pivotal role in the journey of A Kid Called Beast from its inception to its current state. Today, we will explore the fascinating history. We'll also discuss the captivating concepts and factions within A Kid Called Beast, where art and community and connection intertwine, allowing individuals to find their NFT that represents their unique Web3 PFP identities. Building a stellar team is key to any project's success, and Rafsby will share insights about the key individuals who had a significant impact on the journey, both past and present. In our conversation, we'll uncover the one thing that drives Rafsby crazy in the world of Web3, as well as the most important considerations for long-term holders. What does the current roadmap look like? Looking to the future, we'll discover what exciting developments are on the horizon, including their vision for merchandising and their steadfast beliefs around their holders using IP as derivatives for their personal brands. Let's unpack A Kid Called Beast's self-funded journey driven by a dedicated team without relying on VC money. As I always like to say, let's plot, plan, strategize, and implement our next moves in Web3. GM, Rafsby, how you doing?
What's going on? How's everybody doing today?
It's great to have you.
Yeah, no, we've been trying to do this for a long time. I've just been like extremely busy. Every day's a challenge and a journey for sure.
Yeah, I remember last night we were communicating in the DMs, and you're like, "Hey, do you have everything that you need?" So you're prepared and you're a true professional. I think when you get to your level, and as the community is built, and everybody's around it, and we're going to dive in very shortly on all these questions and just have a great conversation, engaging. You must get DMs every day. And a million different things. And so I guess maybe just want to start off on this. How do you keep yourself organized in the course of a day? And at what point do you say, you know what, I just need to turn off and put this to the side and actually just focus on my family?
Yeah, definitely. So that's the last thing you mentioned, like focusing on family and the kind of disconnecting and like knowing to turn it off sometimes has been like what I've been really working hard at. Because pretty much since we started this project, it's been just like 7 days a week. Like this is all we do. Like to the point of my wife being like, I can't watch you do this to yourself anymore. And like, I kind of laugh about it now because like I'm a little bit more balanced than I was before. But like, yeah, we like the whole team, we put all of ourselves into this. Like we're nonstop. We live and breathe this project. So yeah, no, I mean, how I get through things. I mean, I make to-do lists. I make a lot of to-do lists. I have a lot of sticky notes on my monitor. And I just try to knock off as much important stuff as possible. And when there's time left over, I try to knock through smaller, less like action items, things that are more like passive, things that aren't requiring immediate attention. So yeah, it's a juggling act for sure. Like it's definitely there's no easy way to do it by any means.
And this past week, you exceeded 21,000 Ethereum in volume. I mean, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
Next plateau is 25K. That's not too long. The way that things are interaction, all the purchasing that's going on. And I stay focused mostly on OpenSea. I know everybody goes to all these different marketplaces. That's sort of like my safe spot. I just feel comfortable there. How is the massive success of A Kid Called Beast? Has it exceeded your expectations? Is it exactly what you envisioned?
No, it exceeded our expectations. Like when we launched this, like we're way beyond what our expectations were in terms of like metrics and like technicalities. Yeah, no, it's been incredible. Like we just kind of, and based off that success, we've been able to, do a lot more too. Like we've been able to add items to our roadmap that weren't initially intended. Like when we first launched the project, it was just, network community as a utility, 3D files, and an augmented reality piece of art. And we expanded into a lot of other things from there because, I would say decently well capitalized for what we're trying to accomplish. I think we have more than enough capital to be able to pull off what we have on our roadmap items right now.
Got it. And speaking to roadmap, right? What are like in the past month, what are the roadmap items that you've completed just off the top of your head? And then what are the next ones that you're going towards?
Yeah, for sure. So we recently got our own marketplace up and running with the help of a project by the name of Snag Solutions. So we kind of worked back and forth to get this up and running. And the reason we wanted to have our own marketplace is for a few reasons. Obviously lower trading fees for our community, for people who want to trade, for people who want to speculate on the asset price, but also the ability to trade internally. So a beast for beast swap. We found that the reason we wanted to introduce this is because there's been a ton of situations where people got scammed for their NFTs, trying to do swaps, trying to just trade out their NFT for another one they like more. And so we found that was like a really big way for people to get socially engineered and like lose access, just because they get themselves into a situation where they would try to trade for an asset that they thought was the asset they were trading for, but really it was just a fake contract with the same image. And a lot of people got duped in this process in this way. So we wanted to create a platform that's contract lock and safe, so that people can literally trade, with another community member right across for a different beast. And there's no good way to do that right now that's contract locked that we found out there.
When would that marketplace be up?
It's already up. It's already up.
Is that on the?
Yeah, it's live. Website? Yeah, so we already have our own marketplace that aggregates every marketplace, plus has an internal marketplace that people can list for zero fees. We have a swap where people can swap directly across beast for beast, or beast plus some ETH for a beast. And we also have our own DeFi swap, that not everybody knows about. We have a DeFi swap that we launched as a free utility for everybody who just wants to use it. And it's basically a 7-chain DeFi swap that finds the lowest fees for DeFi swaps. So it basically helps save people money by just aggregating all the data from different liquidity providers. And it's basically a way for people to, like, I guess, kind of a replacement for Uniswap or any other kind of swap, because it'll kind of find you the best price to be able to perform a trade. And so, so we built our own swap as well.
Really quick, as a founder, who has a marketplace and all that, I'm just curious what your thoughts on royalties are.
I mean, I would say like a project shouldn't rely on them exclusively. I think like if you build your business model around royalties and exclusively royalties, you're not going to succeed. And we knew that from like day one. Like the royalties are just kind of like a launch pad, a jump start to get the actual utility of the project built out. And that being, like we always looked at, Web 2 items, things that people already know and enjoy. Look at the character. Obviously, like a toy is an absolute like no-brainer for us to do. We wanted to get into toys, but we wanted to do it in a way that involved blockchain and involved technology. So taking something that people know and love, like a cause figurine or a bear brick figurine, and then adding a tech element to it, making it something that can have provenance, something that can have, a genuine authentication, something that can have an augmented reality experience, something that can, perform other activations. We wanted to basically build a toy that has a chip in the head that we can like do other cool stuff with. Whether that's AR plays, whether that's NFT plays, digital collectible plays, like just kind of elevate the art toy experience.
Speaking of the 3D, the 2D, 3D, and you've got the augmented, I saw somebody going around on a skateboard and they were doing it with their beast, so they were able to overlay that. Is that through someone's smartphone where you can just put that image on so long as you own that?
Yeah. So we have a few different components to that. So we have an augmented reality face filter I was going to demo, which allows you to basically become your character. That's something we're rolling out as a play for content creators, people to be able to make content or attend interviews without having to dox themselves. But we also we're working with a company called Wonder Dynamics, and they've basically created a software that will body track using like through video. They'll just basically be able to analyze video and be able to create a perfect 3D skeleton of an actor or anybody in a video, and you're able to replace that actor or person in the video with a 3D model. And so we've been just tinkering with that software. It's an automated software. You basically just load your model in according to their specs, pop in any video you want. And I've been literally messing with movies, just grabbing a segment from a movie, selecting the actor in the movie, and just replacing it with my beast character, and it works pretty flawlessly.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, no, it's like having 2021 like ruined 3D projects in a big way, because like people just like created art and then they didn't deliver anything with it. But 3D actually has so much potential for like utility and being able to create community and user generated content that it never got explored in the way it should have. Like it just like such a missed opportunity. And so like we were battling up against that when we were launching our project too, because like 3D projects notorious for being like rugs, scams, like utility free, like nothing. That was like one of our uphill challenges. But once people started realizing like whoa, you can actually do a lot with 3D. Like you can incorporate your character in video games, metaverses, you can 3D print your files, you can become your character, you can do like all sorts of AR plays. Like people's gears started turning after they realized, okay, like there's a good way and a bad way to do a 3D project.
Let's talk about the art development. We're all here for the art. Let's
Totally.
talk about the art development. I believe you said 4 months. There were, many different renditions.
Yeah, a lot.
To develop. How did that process come together?
Yeah, basically it was a lot of whiteboarding. Caleb, Jamie, myself, we came up with like a ton of concepts for how we wanted the character to look. We wanted kind of like our version of like a Bart Simpson meets Cause meets SpongeBob meets Mickey Mouse, kind of like the embodiment of all our cartoon childhood kind of heroes or like kind of cartoon icons. And we wanted to create something that was like very today, very like Web3 focused. The ski mask was kind of like an ode to the privacy element, like the undoxed element of Web3. And so that was kind of like a staple element that we wanted to include. And we also kind of found that like whenever there's you can see a character's face, it kind of I feel like it forces a narrative or an identity too much. Without being able to see the character's face, there's always a level of mystery, and anybody could personify it, right? And so we created something that was like inclusive by adding everybody's unique skin tones, and then obviously some more creative stuff like zombie skin tones and different things like that. But yeah, we want to kind of allow the mystery of the mask to be able to be personified by anybody as a member of the community, but also like kind of create a fun creative challenge for us as well too. Like how many unique traits and unique looking characters could we create with the in some ways disadvantage of not being able to show the character's face or identity, right?
I want to throw something at you. So
sure.
When I saw Rafsby, when I saw the kid called Beast the first time, I can tell you the word just came to me. It was legacy. So when I look at Mickey Mouse, to me that's legacy. It's just years. It's generational, and so it felt authentic. And then I see other communities. I just saw a project a few days ago. It's like that kind of looks like a kid called Beast, but it's not. And so I think, again, the biggest flattery is copying. The biggest flattery sometimes when you're doing really well and you've launched, you're going to have people that just go, we call it the FUD word. I like to say negativity, just negativity for whatever it is. How have you, and I think this is probably good advice to the community. Maybe it's advice to me as my platform grows. It's something I talk to Ralph a lot about offline. How do you navigate that FUD?
Oh, very differently today than I did when I first started encountering it. So like to give you a bit of perspective, like I've worked in, tech and marketing, like pretty much my entire adult life. And I'm 35 years old now. So like very long time. I've been an entrepreneur since 18 and I'm 35 now. So, with that said, like I've never encountered a situation where I've had to deal with FUD in like at all. You deal with clients and, people will have disagreements and stuff, but you can always, work out a solution. Like it's business. It's very straightforward. Here, it's a completely different environment I've never been really used to. So like, I kind of assumed like, you go in, treating people with respect and kind of doing your best work, and you kind of expect it back. That's like how I've always kind of just dealt with like IRL situations, like online situations. I've never really dealt with like a situation where like you will get attacked by strangers for any reason, just even for engagement. So like I struggle with that at the beginning, like a lot, because I'm super passionate and proud of what we've done. Like I know how much hard work the whole team has put into it. I know how much hard work I've put into this. And so, getting attacked personally for like anything that we do, I took it too personal. I would defend myself and defend my team's honor, my honor, whatever, right? But I realized that's a losing battle no matter what. Even if you're right, like you can't engage in that kind of activity because all they really want out of you is a reaction in the first place anyways. And as soon as they get a reaction, they win. And like from outsiders who don't know you from a stick in the ground, they'll just look at like maybe how frustrated or angry you're getting and assume maybe what the person that's fighting is saying is true, and that's why they're getting so angry, right? And so like I realized like it's better just to like not even entertain like FUD. Just keep building, let your work kind of show
And by the way,
for you,
as you build your community and the people around you and the loyalty and the people engaging with the post, those people that voice at the person with the microphone, they're pushed so far out that their voice, hey, is that someone speaking something negative in the distance? Oh, hi, hater.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I learned that the hard way. Like I had some really like strong life lessons that I think like like, it's shitty that they happen. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I wish I could go back in time and know what I know now.
Right.
But like, there's no rule book, there's no manual for this stuff. You just have to kind of go with your intuition and put your best foot forward. I made a bunch of mistakes pretty early on,
Yeah.
but like, I see it now. Like, the community that we have now in place are like very, very strong. They're very like driven and motivated. And I don't really need to worry about like what people on the outside think. I just need to make sure that my community is happy and make sure that I deliver to my community what I said I'm going to deliver. And so, like, as long as I can do that, I think we'll be just fine.
It's a win-win. You're
Yeah.
lifting up the community, they're lifting you up, and everybody's
Exactly. No, like when I see posts, when I wake up in the morning and I climb out of bed and I grab my phone and I start scrolling and I see people like making stuff with beasts and like creating like cool content, and like people who had no skills in 3D like 2 months ago now building out like architecture and storylines and plot lines and like animation. I'm just like, that's amazing. Like, that's so cool. Like, somebody decided to learn a very valuable skill set, which I think 3D is going to be one of the most valuable, like being able to navigate around 3D modeling, 3D rendering, building assets on 3D. I think is going to be one of the most valuable and sought after skill sets over the next 5 years. And I think there's going to be a huge increase in job opportunities for 3D modelers over the next 5 years.
And as you said, that was neglected or wasn't properly utilized in 2021.
No, not at all.
Actually, I agree with you, Rafsby. I've never been a huge fan of these 3D projects, even knowing what the huge potential is, because nobody's really done it right. And you guys were one of the first to just hit it out of the park. And
there's a few like Clone
it.
X, shout out, like Artifact, they murdered it. Like, and obviously they got the attention of Nike. Like they did great. And there's a few other 3D projects that are doing a really good job. They're doing the right and correct things with 3D. But again, like, it's been an uphill battle for a long time with 3D assets. And it's like, there's not a lot of 3D projects out there that are kind of thinking in that sense of like, let's be ready for games. Like, we know Yuga Labs is building a strong contender for a metaverse type game. Like, let's be ready for when they release, compatibility for that. Because there's no way they can get their ecosystem to run on just what they have in existing assets. They're going to need to onboard a lot of people to have a sustainable game, like as any, metaverse game company would need to, right? You can't have a sustainable, ecosystem on like, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 assets. You're going to need millions. You're going to need millions of players for it to be, viable, right? And so when that time comes, I think all the 3D projects will, be able to integrate with, these big metaverse billion-dollar companies that are going to be built out.
Not to ask you what you project, that over the next year, where A Kid Called Beast number-wise will rise to in ETH value. That's not the question. The question is, when you think about the long-term value from a holder perspective, right? Because when I get into a community, I'm staying there. Unless something crazy happens and I'm looking at my personal bills in the IRL real life world, I'm kind of like, okay, maybe I need to make the move on this and sell. And as I said, last year was my big scholarship year. And then this platform is my biggest bet. For you, when you think about long-term holders who are committed to the community, building, utilizing IP, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that as far as for people who has product or service, how they can utilize the Kid Called Beast brand, meaning their particular PFP. What do you think, in your perfect ideal world, in yours, what do you think a long-term holder should be thinking as they're building in your community, not thinking to sell, but in building value around their Web3 presence?
Totally. So like, the best way I can answer this question would be like, how would I approach the brand or the project if I was a holder myself?
Correct.
So what I would be doing is, first off, networking with people who have skill sets that I don't have, and either learning from those people and improving my skill sets, or looking to build something with those people. The things I'd be looking to build would be things that could be in partnership or become an extended leg or arm of the brand or project. So like, different type of IP use plays, and we're totally like looking for those teams and those people that are willing to work to build out different kind of components and different kind of items that we can work together on and build out and expand upon. So like, definitely looking for opportunities that aren't already being done, and there's lots of them with this type of IP. Think of, like, as a hint, like anywhere you've ever seen Mickey Mouse or Bart Simpson in like a merchandise play, that's something that can be built. Then there's a ton of stuff out there. There's a ton of stuff. Anywhere you've ever seen, Minions or SpongeBob or Elsa or any of these types of characters, like, there's a huge opportunity for a play there. Beyond that, I think utilizing the learning of 3D skills, creating music, using your IP for that, creating components for video games, or, combining and working with people to build a video game, that would be, a super useful component as well. I think just like finding ways to strengthen or build out an extended arm of the IP is what I'd be focusing on. I'd be organizing, people who I saw had skills, either business acumen or 3D rendering skills or coding and development skills, rallying them together and just starting to work on stuff. Because a lot of this stuff doesn't cost money to build or do. It just takes time. You can literally convert time for something of value, something that is, people will pay for. The type of IP that we're building, we're trying to create something that it has like a legacy and a longevity. It's already trademarked. We have a registered trademark, and we're trying to build something that's going to be around in 5-10 years. Whether Web3 exists or persists or not, and we're going to build with that community and allow the community to create opportunities. When I look at, for example, like Walt Disney's early story, it was basically him and his family, like his brother and family members that just built out this animation component. And as that started getting a bit of traction, people came in with new skills and said, like, I can do this for the brand. And they just started creating their own job opportunities. Web3 is very much capable of doing that. Early brands like this are very much capable of doing that. We didn't say, hey, we're looking to hire game developers. No, there's game developers that came together and said, we love the IP. Let's work on building a game together. And we just started working on building a game together to the point that now, like, this is something that we're funding, and we're going to make sure that they get the proper support in building a proper game. Anybody could come through, let's say, I don't know, a gummy bear company or a candy company or a soft drink company, anything with an ideation and a plan. And that's something that we'll get behind and partner on. And I think like that's kind of like the way we want to operate as a brand, just expand its arms, expand its legs, and just kind of keep building. Because the character, is a very likable character. It's a bipod character that resembles, a lot of interesting cartoon characters. It has a very unique look. It's very distinguishable. And even if you put it up as a silhouette, where you can't identify, the textures or colors, you can still tell that that's the character. Even this little hat, it's just a symbol. It's a very simple symbol. You could tell that that's a resemblance of our character.
Yeah, for sure. Question for you, Rafsby. How do you see all of that trickling down to your initial holders, right? We've seen, Luca Nets recently with Pudgy Penguins. They launched their toy line. I believe there were 14 characters that were licensed from holders for the original line of toys. And there's some kind of rev share going on there. We had AJT on the show a week or so ago, and they've done some really cool things with the 187 in terms of how they handle the IP. How do you look at it? Are you as a brand, preferably driving the whole IP thing and sharing in that with your holders that are offering to license up? Like, can you give us a little?
Yeah, for sure. So like our plan is to basically build a bunch of utility first, just kind of create a rough structure of like what can be done. So in terms of doing stuff in film or TV, doing stuff with video games, doing stuff with physical products like art toys, doing stuff in fashion, doing stuff in music, we want to kind of build a rough infrastructure of things that we can show work at a kind of a bare minimum level, and then find people that want to expand upon that with us. That's basically kind of our approach. We want to go build out a bunch of stuff we know we can first, and in a way it's kind of similar to like Luca's approach. Luca did it, I think, brilliantly. Like the guy did it, I think, the right way. He created a bunch of mechanisms to onboard, people outside of the space by creating cool stuff that would onboard people onto Web3, rather than doing the other way around. We're trying, a lot of projects come in, especially gaming projects are really notorious for this. They'll try to build a Web3 product first and then try to sell it and pitch it to the masses. But really, like the proper approach is to build something that is familiar and cool as just a Web2 product. And like, Luca's done a great job of that. He found a Web2 product. He knows Web2 products. He knows e-commerce. I also know e-commerce. Being able to create something that's just cool in that world, and then creating Web3 features to onboard those people into the space. I think that's how you make the space, bigger and better. Thinking from that lens is like going for the Web2 audience, creating things that the Web2 audience will like, and then kind of upgrading those people into Web3, not the other way around. Not trying to take something that's Web3 and then educate Web2 people on it and try to teach them that Web3 is cool, kind of in the reverse order.
Let me throw this to you. Mint Day was tough, and I'm not asking you to revisit that and talk about all.
Yeah, it was so tough.
Yeah. But here's my question. There was a lot learned in execution, and it seems like obviously that's only made you better. You spoke like the FUD or the negativity, how you handle that now. And again, you have a number of years of business behind you, experience moving forward, right? There at some point down the line might be another part of that community launch from a kid called Beast. and you looked at that process. What was the biggest lesson that you took away from that day moving forward?
Take your time and just do the best you can. And I feel like if I was like less emotional in some of my responses, it would have been better off than yeah, I think keep my emotions under control. That would have been the number one lesson. Cause like I feel that I did handle the FUD well. I was like transparent. Like, we got our Twitter hacked. I was like notify people right away. When we got botted, I was like, I showed my face. I was in spaces. I wasn't disappearing. Like I plan to be in the space for a really long time, like rain or shine. So like I have to be able to, look people right in the eye and say like, hey, like this is what happened. This is the mistake that was made. Like, here's what we're going to do to get through it, and just kind of think on my feet. I'm not planning to run away or disappear or like, I'm like, I use the same handle on all my social media platforms, and I have for like a long time. Like there's nothing worth ruining my reputation over. So yeah, like, I think just, managing my emotions has been like the only real conflict point. Other than that, it's just a matter of like, knocking through the most important things first and, continuing to be transparent and build openly, build out in the public. Cause like, to me, like, I think, doing something truly Web3 is, or trying to, I mean, there's no one truly Web3 in this space, in my opinion, but like working towards Web3 would be doing things openly and transparently and just kind of being, an open book, something that can be, trusted, something that can, be verified, right? Creating a track record, creating, a history. I think that's like the most kind of valuable thing you can do. If you build in silence and build kind of quietly and don't let anybody who's holding the asset know what's going on, I think that kind of creates. It's not really a Web3 way of doing things, to be honest. I think it's just kind of that's how Web2 companies operate, really. And so like learning what that looks like, it's still very like, again, there's no manual for this stuff. It's a lot of trial and error, a lot of experimentation. You figure it out as you go. You try out what works. You expand upon what works well, and the things that don't work well, you stay away from those things, right?
So you were able to not only was it a crash, you were able to pull out from that crash, fix up the car, and get back on the highway. And and you've just been moving forward at velocity speed. Tony, I do want to do a quick screen share. I want to give a quick shout out to one of the people in your community who, when I reached out originally and I said, hey, I'm going to have Rafsby on. I want to make sure that we have great content. We're creating great conversation. People are getting to know you who are not in yet the community. And Kranz was such a big instrumental help, no pun intended. He's incredibly talented. So guys, if you're not following him, definitely go follow him. He's a big fan of yours, Rafsby. And obviously he is part of the Kid Called Beast community.
No, he's a homie. He's somebody that we brought into the community just because like he's so passionate. And that's another thing that we really glad we did. We kept a community reserved so that like there was never a situation where like people that really were going to add value to the community and be a fun instrumental part of the community, they would have an opportunity to get in. So a lot of people got priced out. Like that's the reality. And spending the kind of money people do on a digital asset, it's a lot of money, right? For a lot of people, being able to grant and gift and raffle off, something of a high value to people has been awesome. And like every time somebody wins one or somebody grants one, there's always like such a great gratitude, such a good feeling. And like, I'm glad we planned ahead in that way. And it's allowed us to really like bring in some awesome people into the community.
You're in the process of creating, I believe in one interview, you were talking about creating 2 different record labels. Mm-hmm. Can you expand on that for a little bit? Yeah,
for sure. So we're looking to create an electronic music label and something that's more kind of hip hop, R&B focused as well. So, building a record label, it's obviously it's no easy task. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of, the right people, record executives and the right networks to be able to distribute music through like classic terms. Cause like the way people are distributing music right now, it's like, basically what I've seen at least is it's an MP3 attached to a JPEG and then it's sold as an NFT. And there's very little liquidity or resale value on this kind of stuff. So for me, it's kind of like, it's not really solving a problem right now. In some ways it's, like it solves a problem for the artist. Like the artist gets, all the fees, which is great, right? It supports the artist. But to me, it's not really something that's like fully sustainable. There needs to be like a proper kind of bridge that allows, an improvement over the Web2 way of doing things, which is like the streaming, the Spotify, iTunes kind of way. And, using this technology to kind of improve the end user's experience. Because like at the end of the day, the person who should like truly benefit is the the end user, the person who's actually listening to the content, downloading the content, collecting the content, right? It can't be just like, the creator is the only one like truly benefiting, and it's a one-way support system, right? So we're pretty much just trying to kind of come up with like a really cool way to do that. We're networking in the process. We're getting some awesome demos from people. We think the first way we're going to do it is kind of assemble, I guess, a mixtape, something that's kind of, music from the community, and be able to do a physical item with that has, a technology component to it. And so that's kind of where we're at with the label side of things. In terms of like, have we found the next, huge big artist, and we're going to, splash off and become, the project that launches the next, I don't know, Pharrell. It's way too early to say right now. There's a lot of talented people in the community. And I think the first thing we got to do is compile, organize, and get something out there that people can listen to and enjoy, and kind of figure out where to go from there, and figure out if that tech play that we do with that music is an improvement upon what people already know, and if it is, like, how do we dive into it and scale it further, and if it isn't, go back to the drawing board and try something different, try something else that sticks.
40 minutes in with you, I think you're a great conductor. So the job of a high-level CEO, co-founder, is to be able to not only spot talent, obviously understand other people's weaknesses, and more importantly, you were able to self-reflect on your own weaknesses or the challenges that we all have, which are when you're attacked for no reason, you automatically want to defend. And as I said, you've grown this community, the noise just drowns out. And you also said, what is the biggest asset that somebody can have? I always feel like the biggest utility outside of just grabbing a nice JPEG that's on a smart contract is the network that you get, the networking, the connections, and then building that authenticity. And did we lose Rafsby?
It looks like it.
Yeah. He was done networking with us. Speaking of networking,
he's like, he'll probably be back in a second. But what do you gentlemen think? Well, here he comes, and
sorry about that. My window just crashed for some reason. I have no idea what happened there.
Yeah, I was just saying. So you the biggest utility that people can have is the ability to network, and it seems like your community does that at such a high level.
They really do.
So let's share. What are some challenges that you dealt with, right? Pre-mint process, not minting day, but pre-mint. As you were developing this, maybe it was from the art, getting the team together. What did that look like initially, and like where was that idea? Where was that moment you're like, I want to start an NFT community? Like, where did this happen? When, where, how, why?
Yeah, so me and Caleb were talking about doing. Caleb's one of the other co-founders. We were talking about doing like a really cool art project, because we saw like a lot of cool communities forming around like these 2D JPEGs, and we're just like, I wish there was kind of like more to it, like something that was kind of like more open-ended, something that was kind of like, because we're big into like collectibles, like art toys, like cause figurines, and like bear bricks, and like we're really into fashion and music. We wanted something that was kind of like a hype beast item. And so we wanted to kind of put our own kind of spin on it, do something that like had like, a physical component to it, a culture kind of component to it, that was just like built around these kind of familiar, kind of cultural and stylistic kind of hype beast, I guess, items. And so we just started ideating on it, and it just like, it was a really organic process. It was just like, at first it was just like, let's do a really cool art piece, like a collectible. And it just like expanded on it when we kind of realized like how much more potential we have with this. And like when we started kind of really getting to know and meet some really cool people, we kind of started building along with them. Like at first it was just like the team was kind of building what we wanted to build. But as we started meeting the community members that were falling in love with what we were doing, we started just kind of opening it up and just letting people provide their feedback on what they wanted to see and how they kind of saw things, and just ideating and brainstorming with people in a lot of like group chats and spaces and Discord chats. And then it became kind of a really cool back and forth like process.
That's awesome. And I want to ask Matt, what are your thoughts? Any questions for Rafsby? We got him here.
I'm just loving everything I heard. I just, in general, seeing the Kid Called Beast, and seeing the parties and all that. I didn't get to meet you at the party. So I was skeptical just going into this thinking like, oh, is this like a party NFT? But like just buy a bunch of people who just know how to party. And because I've been part of crypto project, not part of, I've seen crypto projects where that was the case, founders who they were just there to spend their holders' money. And when I saw the party, I'm like, all right, these guys know how to party, but do they know business? And after this podcast so far, I know we're only 40 minutes in, I can definitely, at least for myself, say that I am very confident in the back end running of a kid called Beast. It's not just a party NFT. There's a lot of people in it, at least one that I right here who knows what he's talking about when it comes to running an entrepreneurship business, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, no, and just like a little bit of like backstory, like one of my first jobs as an entrepreneur was hosting events. So I did a lot of like electronic music events. I ran 3 nightclubs and did music festivals growing up. That's kind of like my first foray into like the entrepreneurial kind of thing. So a lot of like carryover experience throwing an event was, yeah, like we like I definitely have a kind of a.
How important
dealing with fudders is like dealing with nightclub owners or promoters, man. Like that's
not even
honestly,
dealing with drunk people honestly is easier than dealing with like people online sometimes, because like think about it, like a drunk person's like, it's pretty easy, like, hey, you know, you're drunk, don't like, let's like keep talk to them in a calm voice, like don't try to aggravate them, don't try to, because they're right there, right? And you know, you can identify that they're drunk, you can identify the state that they're in, so it's like easy to kind of figure out how you're supposed to handle a person if they're on drugs, if they're you know, drunk, because you have all the signs and signals. When you're dealing with somebody online that's like hidden behind like a PFP, they can say anything they want to you. They could say racist stuff to you. They could say anti-Semitic stuff to you. They can say anything they want to you, and they have like the guise and the disguise of you know, an internet identity. And there's not really much you can do about it if you're not prepared for it. You can fall right into a trap, right?
Yeah. So speaking of privacy and PFPs, you've mentioned it a couple times. I'm very proud of the fact that you're front and center. You've you know, totally doxed yourself. You've taken a lead in you know, being out and talking to the community, talking to other projects, interviews like this. Was there ever a time that you guys considered not doxing yourselves and just being anons, or
never,
always
never.
from the beginning? Just
yeah, no, like from day one, it was just yeah, we never had an idea to like not do anything fully doxed. Like I was just trying to think back. Was there ever a point where we're just like, no, it was just always, I mean, we had nothing to hide. That's the thing, right? Like we're just like, all our friends and family in real life know about this project, and a lot of them hold this project. So for us, there was no reason to hide. Like I put my mom in a video using a face filter, like my sister, like yeah, like if we had anything to hide, like we definitely wouldn't, right? We definitely would and you know, do what people do that do rug. Like we cover our faces and use fake names and no identity, no track back, and then disappear as soon as we get the money, because there's no reason to stick around after that point, right? But yeah, no, we kept it kind of, you know, 100% with people. Like pretty early on, I was doing video interviews, and I've never done video interviews before. Like before the space, I never did video interviews with people. I never, you know, I never even spoke in like rooms with like hundreds of people. I just like, I had 500 followers when we first came out to this project.
535 or something like that. And I was,
yeah, it was like 535, like this,
wow,
like, maybe like a month later than this time last year or earlier. And I just like started hopping in spaces and talking to people and like telling people what I was working on, showing them what I was working on, and just like jumping in interviews and just helping people out, giving people advice on stuff, like just kind of just naturally just kind of progressed. And just like anybody who was just like, you know, value to this space, I try to offer them assistance. I try to do a favor for them, and just kind of like, you know, just kind of spread positivity as much as I could.
Rafsby, I think transparency and humility are key for really strong leaders and leadership. And you have that in spades from our conversation, from all, and not even here tonight. I watched a number of interviews that you're on, and there's a back and forth. There feels like there's a conversation and a connection, and every founder is at a different place in building. But the number one key component is being the maestro, is being the conductor, being able to make sure that people are in the right positions. And when they're not, recognizing that and putting a stop to that immediately. And also, when you react and just, maybe it's just a thought, when you do get someone that'll say something negative, the community quietly, the ones that aren't flooding you, the ones that are showing you love and loving the community that they're in, and being able to share their day or their experience or their kid called Beast, you know, with the 3D and doing all these cool AR things. And they get congratulated by the community. They get the oxytocin hit, just like you do when you wake up in the morning and you look at your phone and you say, what's going on with all my Beast family? I mean, that's powerful. And being able to do that and deliver that message time and time again, and being consistent day in and day out like you are, is kind of it's reason why the success is. And then I want to say that art, you worked on it for 4 months. You had, many different characters that you developed. Let's talk about some of the factions. I want to dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Rarity and traits. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. So 20 factions, we kind of based them loosely off of like high school cliques, I guess. Kind of like very loosely. Some of them are kind of like business orientated, but we've tried to kind of categorize 20 categories of like interests, I guess. We kind of did a little bit of a brainstorming session. We try to have fun with it, and like this is kind of what came out of it. Like we had a business group. We have kind of a more degen group. We have like athletics. We have kind of more nerdy, geeky kind of stuff. Loners, kind of like more introverted, hippies, like all these kind of like fun, like personality cliques that we just we wanted people to be able to find like-minded individuals in like kind of a similar headspace, because like we found that in a lot of like projects early on, like especially hype projects, you go into a space where there's like thousands of people talking over each other. It's difficult to kind of find like a meaningful connection with a lot of people, like be able to kind of get a word in and kind of have your voice heard, because people are in there from all walks of life, all interest groups, every part of the world, and there's like no commonality to find. So we created this as a way for people to kind of find their people, right? Like at least be able to make friends very easily in an environment that's not like overwhelming. It's not like an echo chamber. And so we found that like this was an experiment, right? We didn't know if it was going to work or not, but we definitely found that like it was very positive overall. Like there's things that we know we need to work on as a community to be able to kind of strengthen each of the individual kind of subgroups. But overall, I think it was a success. It was a good idea to do that, and it helped form a lot of meaningful relationships for people, and it helped kind of strengthen the cliques that are there.
MetaMatt, I'm going to come to you in a second so we can talk about people that are in the Twitter spaces, give some shout outs and show some love. And then Ralph, I want to head to you in a second, but I want to talk about worldwide, right? Japanese and Chinese communities in Web3. The most beautiful thing about Web3 is that we are worldwide. Let's talk about A Kid Called Beasts throughout the world. Talk to us about our worldwide community.
Yeah, definitely. So super strong community in China, led by Ducky. He's our Chinese director for A Kid Called Beast. He pretty much like handles a lot of the organization, a lot of like the team building components, and just like he's just been a really good and strong pillar for the Chinese community. Big advocate and push for the Chinese community. We have a pretty amazing community in Japan as well, and it's a great smaller community in Korea too. So yeah, we just we're grateful that we're able to reach that far in the world, and we want to bridge the gap obviously between west side and east side, and we want to create something that is universally enjoyable by people from all over the world. And so yeah, we have plans in play to kind of facilitate the growth and kind of expand upon what's going on between things over here, and Ducky being able to translate that over to the east side of the world. And I think he's doing a fantastic job. He's like really just on it, able to just kind of translate everything across, because like obviously nobody on the founding team speaks Mandarin, but Ducky's been able to really translate the vision of what we're doing quite well, and organize the communities there quite well. We have a ton of strongholders in China and Japan as well. So
that's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's been cool. It's been like really, really cool. It's kind of like, it was obviously a learning curve and like a bit of a cultural curve too, but like we're keen to learn and keen to adapt, and we want to make sure that A Kid Called Beast is a worldwide movement.
And that's the incredible thing about A Kid Called Beast, and some of the other really great communities, is that it is worldwide, and you're building those relationships, you're building those bridges.
Yeah, no, like I have friends in China and friends in Japan, like now because of this. Like I can go there and not be like tourist trap guy who goes and has to do all the touristy things. I have people locally who will show me around, who will show me like the real of what it's like in several cities in China and Japan, and I think that's amazing. That's one of the coolest parts. Like you can meet with people that are intelligent, trustworthy, technologically savvy people who love creative art. Like that to me is like more than what I look for in a friend.
That
And being able to network with people like that around the world is like superb. I would never be able to do that in any other circumstance. Like what I'm like, how am I going to meet somebody like that in just day-to-day life? I'm not going to find them at a coffee shop or like anywhere I go out. Like there's no way that'll ever happen. Like maybe at a conference, but like people are at conferences for different reasons. A lot of time people are at conferences, specifically to do business, right?
Yeah.
And so like it's a different type of vibe. Like I think like being able to connect over art, music, culture, it's a great way to make meaningful friendships like around the world. And I think that's like one of the most amazing parts about Web3 is like being able to make friends you would have never had a chance of meeting otherwise.
And that's relationship utility at the highest level.
Yeah.
And MetaMatt, I want to shoot over to you. Talk to us. Who's in our Twitter Spaces? Any questions coming through? And Rafsby, I appreciate it. I know that you've got a hard 9:30, so just let me know if you want to go past a little bit. We can, but I want to respect.
I move things around a little bit, so I can stick around for sure.
Cool, man. Cool. How are we doing, MetaMatt?
Yeah, no, we got it. The Twitter Spaces is packed. A whole bunch of a kid called Beast holders. I see all the masks out there on the in the PFPs. I'm loving it. We got Crad, we got Roma, we got Comfort on there. I can only see a select few on my screen for on my computer. But speaking of just the community in general, I know when it comes to Web3, it was awesome hearing your past with the event planning and all that. I used to work event management and event planning and all that in the hospitality field prior to working as a content creator and educational director over the company I work with now. But I just had to say, as someone who's done hospitality before, I've noticed that there's a big lack in real life, the IRL, events and all that. Like it's great seeing the people, but I feel like the organization in a lot of these, these Web3 projects has been less than just not great when it came to these in real events that I've at least been to. That being said, at NFT NYC, just recently, I was at the Kid Called Beast party, and that I told everybody, like you can look at my Twitter, I'm not lying. I told everybody it was by far the best party that was there. This event. Not just the people who were there, because anyone who was there, but also the way that y'all organized. I'm assuming, was that you who kind of put that all together?
Yeah, it was a combination of me and Sam and team. So we've had a lot of help, like putting it together. We had some incredible people in terms of production and just like planning. Like the whole campaign was like really, really solid. We had some awesome partners kind of working together to make this a fun event. But yeah, we wanted something that was had the intent of networking and being able to do business early on. Like as the night started, there's like a really cool progression of like the music not being too loud and overwhelming. And as people kind of started filling in and like it became more difficult to talk business because it was too loud, we started kind of cranking the music up a little bit and creating more of a party atmosphere. So it wasn't just like one or the other. It was like kind of a really good mix of a hybrid. And we thought that the curation of the event was like, yeah, it went off without a hitch. And we planned that in 10 days, which is like pretty incredible. Like we were able to, like we started planning that event while we were in Miami. And I'm from Canada. Like I live in a city called Calgary. So like that was like my third time ever in New York. And we were able to, pull off an event like that in 10 days while we started planning it 10 days prior in Miami. So like not even home, far from home, just like started putting together like the parts of doing an event. And we managed to pull it off. It was crazy. Like the timing of everything just kind of worked out. We found a really cool venue that had never been used for an NFT event or like a club event for that matter ever. It was a brand new venue. And we found some amazing sponsors.
That was a slick venue. That venue, like that was like just everything about it was perfect.
Oh no, it was ideal. And we got the visuals, custom visuals created in like a very short time span. Shout out to Haslu and the team. Like they did a killer job of making custom visuals. And then we got a DJ who's playing at Coachella the next day, like a pretty well-renowned DJ. We rerouted his flight, and that was like a whole funny endeavor on its own, like just trying to negotiate with these guys on such a short notice to be able to come spin and perform at like a private event like this when these guys are like, no, we're booked, like we can't do anything. Like convincing them to do it was interesting. We pulled it off.
Do you find a big difference between planning for an event, for the Web3 audience or just Web3 projects in general versus the pre-Web3 and pre all this kind of stuff?
A little bit. It's a lot of the same. It's like hybrid between planning a club event and planning like a corporate business event. So I think like, finding that right mesh and creating an environment that's like, conducive and still cool enough that if you attend and you're not, huge into Web3, you'll have a good time, but also making sure that people can like get value from being there. Like they can, meet some really cool people. they can pitch their ideas. Like I got pitched probably 20, 30 ideas while I was there, just walking around, just from different people. It was really cool. Yeah, no, it was fun. I had a good time. I got to, put a lot of faces to names, because like I pretty much knew everybody as just PFPs. I could hear their voice. I recognize everybody by their voice for the longest time. So for the first time, got to meet all these people I've been spending, over a year of my life with in real life. And it was just like amazing. Like it just strengthens bonds. And like, I feel like once you meet people like that in real life, after you've spent so much time with them, and they're, from all different parts of the world, like it's just a really meaningful experience, I would say.
How has I want to switch the gear a little bit. How has A Kid Called Beast managed to remain self-funded without any VC money? Because Ralph and I talk a lot about VC. Anything I get all my education from him concerning VC. So how has that managed to be the case? And it's quite an accomplishment, quite frankly. Yeah,
no, like I mean, so like the real question is like, I don't understand how there's so many projects out there that have raised like $50 to $100 million in bull runs that aren't doing like a very bare minimum a lot of the stuff that we're doing. Because like with we raised a total of like $2.5 million American, and that's enough to launch toys, clothes, gaming, all the stuff that we're trying to do. Like we're doing it. We'll have funds left over when we've completed these things, and that's with like salaries and paying staff and doing all that kind of stuff. So like I don't know how others are doing it. Like if we had $50 to $100 million, we'd be building fucking jetpacks, man. I don't know. I'm kidding, but like I don't know why people aren't doing this. Cause like I just, I wish we had this idea during a bull run, cause like it would be just such an amazing and incredible opportunity for us to just be able to, staff up even higher and do more cool stuff. But yeah, like we're just very, thrifty with funds, I guess. Like we don't, pay agencies like huge over the top prices to accomplish things we can do ourselves or are higher for. Like a lot of this stuff I think gets diluted, when agencies come in, they inflate the cost of everything. They're staffing like rampantly because like money's falling out of the sky. And so like
good
or they just let
me throw this at you, because this is a conversation that Ralph and I have. Ralph, is it a combination of mismanagement, which can be by user error, right? And or also the combination of greed? Is it both? What are your thoughts around that, Ralph?
I think it's a little both. I mean, this could be a show all on its own. I agree with Rafsby on this one. I just don't get it, right? Like I don't get how some of these projects have raised, and I have zero problems calling some of these out. I've called them out on the show before. Like everything that's going on with Proof just blows my mind, right? Like even the fact that they canceled Proof of Conference after having sold 1,000 tickets, like they didn't even have to sell a ticket. They raised more than $40 or $50 million, I think. Like seriously, like you couldn't subsidize an event. Those are the kinds of things that drive me nuts, and I don't get it. I mean, you put those kinds of coffers in the hands of somebody like Rafsby and his team, and you can only begin to imagine the kind of amazing shit that they can put out.
Ralph, I had 1 million followers and $40 million. I promise you, every single fucking person at those events would be extracting like at least $1,000 worth of value just by coming to the event, and like people would be getting more than a fanny pack for sure.
Would that amount of money be the master class? I think a lot of it is these projects in the bull run. A lot of them, I think, they held their funds in crypto, which wasn't the greatest business move. Which is like you're saying, Craig. A lot of people they're not business people, but they're in charge of the business because NFTs.
Yeah, I think you have to kind of estimate what your operating capital is going to need to be, and so like, I guess like a good test that I like to ask founders is like present a credit card with your corporation's name on it. Like if you're serious about actually building, because a lot of the stuff that you're planning to build, you're going to have to pay for with fiat. Not everybody's going to accept Ethereum to be able to pay for these goods, especially if they're like, traditional retail goods like clothing. You're not going to find a lot of people and suppliers who are going to want to accept Ethereum for this kind of stuff. And if you do, you're probably not planning on paying your taxes if you're looking for these kind of loopholes, right?
Exactly. Rafsby, you're speaking in transparency and common sense, and you're saying the skill set that
you need credit. You need credit to run a business, no matter what. Like vendors accept payment in credit cards and bank transfers and wire transfers. If you're not setting up bank accounts or corporations or trademarking stuff, or if you don't have like a bare minimum a credit card to pay for this kind of stuff, like I don't know what the game plan is.
Show me your credit card.
Well,
Yeah, that'd be the easiest way to like vet a project. Like, show me a credit card with your company name on it. And
the tagline for tomorrow is "What's in your wallet?"
yeah, seriously. Yeah, no, I think like, we early on we're like, okay, the very first thing we need to do, obviously, incorporate, start trademarking our IP because we're serious about it. So covering all the legal side of that component, establishing credit. It's something you should start doing as early as possible, as soon as you have funds, so that you can pay for stuff. Because different vendors and the things we want to do, there's large chunks of payments, and you need to be able to have a high level of credit established, because otherwise, how are you going to pay for this stuff? So yeah, that was something that we really put a lot of emphasis on early on, and we realized actually through this process and some of the processes of working with different partners and brands that were kind of in the works of participating with on some like upcoming launches. We learned that vast majority of NFT and like digital collectible projects are not set up to do business. They're very, very good at raising capital and funds and like doing that whole part. But then as soon as it comes to actually executing on a business and forming a corporate structure and all that kind of stuff, like they completely fall apart at that point. They don't know what to do. They don't know what the first step is. They don't know like what they need to do to be able to start fulfilling on their roadmap items. And like a lot of that involves, setting up a corporate exchange account so that you can, convert funds into, stables, so that you can move stables into a bank account, so that you can have funds to pay off, credit that you're going to need to, pay different suppliers and manufacturers for all the different, utility goods you promised. So yeah, like I think, I learned, I can't specifically talk about what I learned, but I know for a fact that a lot, like I'm going to say over 80% of the space is operating without a corporation or without a legal entity.
Yeah,
and like even projects that I was actually surprised that I thought would have been operating this way are not, and they're causing delays in different launches because they're not up to par, and they're not, they haven't fulfilled on. They're not able to do a KYC process. They're not able to present a utility bill. They're not able to do a lot of these different components that are required, for some high level brand partnerships. Like most brand partnerships, if you're trying to work with like one of those Forbes 500 brands, they're going to require KYC. They're going to require, doxing from founders. They're going to require, a lot of different components that if you're not a corporation that's able to legally operate in the United States or in Europe or in Canada, they're not going to work with you, period. Because these people they can't take those kind of risks. Like these companies can't take these kind of risks. So
Rafsby, you just mentioned brand partnerships. I've got two questions for you, seemingly unrelated, but they could be totally lightning round type questions. First one is, from a brand partnership perspective, what would be your dream partnership scenario? What brand in any vertical, you get to pick the vertical, what brand is kind of like your dream brand partnership? And then the second question, and you can address these in whatever order you want. What's been your biggest regret so far in running your project?
Definitely. So dream partnerships would be like doing something like cool with like a designer fashion line would be awesome. Doing something with a large video game company like Electronic Arts or something would be really cool, or like Activision. There's obviously like those top 50 brands out there that would be really, really cool to work with. Like if I could work with Adidas, I think that'd be amazing. That's definitely like,
I think they may have an opening here pretty soon.
Like one of these types of brands would be really, really cool. Yeah, being able to just do a cool activation with something that would solidify us as like an iconic character would be really cool. And yeah, I'm excited about the future. I really believe in what we're doing. Like I think our IP is super, super strong. And I think that we could do a lot of good and create a lot of cool innovation for any brand we would partner with.
Yeah, as I said, that A Kid called Beast. When I look at those characters, that's like,
yeah, we got some really cool like
so awesome, man.
Yeah, this little mini beast, and then we got this something a little bit more
mega beast. Damn,
yeah,
that's
cool little
wait,
that is super cool.
Huh, that would look good. That would look good. Wow, that would actually look good. Oh wait,
this is the size of a bear brick. It's a 70 centimeter model.
Wow.
That's freaking cool. I want to talk to you about your website. That is,
yeah, for sure. Just to answer that question though, things I regret, just getting too emotional. about the project, getting too like passionate and like not maintaining, rational, I guess, behavior. Like I should have definitely been more mature and more adult in some of the circumstances I've encountered, just from getting too pissed off from like a troll. And, that obviously, came with its consequences. So I would say that's my biggest regret for sure. Like that's something that I'm like still, I work through every day.
Appreciate that, man. Thanks for your
Rafsby,
honesty.
I'm 46. Ralph's younger than me. But we deal with that too. It's the more times that we go through it, we learn from it. And guess what? At some point, you're going to lose your temper. Someone's going to it's going to hit you the wrong way. You're not going to be expecting or be prepared. But the great thing is that you have such an army around you, not behind.
Oh, I do. Yeah. Without them, like, yeah, I'd be screwed. No, I have like an incredible community to lean back on. I've had such good advice from like so many community members that really like kind of show me the way. Like I get hot headed. I'm a pretty like, I definitely know I have a temper for sure. It's something I've been like working on. Like I'm somebody that just like, I'm not afraid of confrontation. Like somebody comes at me, like for sure, I will just, I'll hit them with the truth if I have to. Like, and like that's something I've been kind of like working on, like centering myself a little bit, not always like, just saying directly what's on my mind. Like I learned through a lot of the founders I respect in the space that it's important to get a therapist and talk to somebody and be able to like vent because, like we deal with very unique situations that are not, normal situations, not even for founders in other, vectors and other verticals. Like we're kind of subject to like this, 4chan meme culture, open-ended, stone throwing pit in a lot of situations where like you are, you get thrown in the gladiator ring and people they don't care what happens to you at the end. It's relentless. And so, yeah, learning how to deal with that and be able to not be, emotionally involved and try to remain stoic is definitely been a challenge, but I feel like I've been making massive improvements. Like who I am today versus 3 months ago is like big difference.
That's
Awesome.
phenomenal. I love that. I do want to dive into this website because it's crisp. There are a few websites out there from some other communities that are pretty powerful. But I have to say, like, you're running neck and neck with one of the other ones. And the reason I say the other ones is because we're focused on you tonight. It's just about you, not about any other communities, and all the communities, much respect. But tonight's about a kid called Beast. I'll tell you what I liked about the website. For me, I loved when you could go down and you could take the quiz and try to figure out what beast you'd get into, because a lot of the time the mentality, and I think this is part of that take the quiz part, is if I found out that I'm a sort of a certain faction based on the questions that I answer, I'm naturally going to gravitate to grabbing that. And it's not about sweeping a floor, but it's about grabbing the trait or within the faction that makes the most sense. Can you expand a little bit on the factions and how that kind of came to be?
Yeah, for sure. So, we kind of had the rough personality traits that we had identified, because basically how we build everything as a team, we use this software called Miro. So we build these whiteboards. It's like a cloud-based software that people can use kind of everywhere. It's free. I highly recommend it if you're doing anything team-based. It's super good. But we use this software called Miro, and that's what we use for kind of ideating everything that we do. Like kind of, whether it's coming up with ideas for clothes, coming up with, toys, gaming, like anything that we want to do. Kind of came up with this board where we had kind of personality traits and cliques identified. And so, and basically once we kind of had the art curated and like the style kind of ideas and concepts for what that character type represented to us, we started kind of diving into its personality traits and kind of identifying them as, one of 6 personality traits and kind of a combination of personality traits. So what we did is we ended up creating this quiz that was 40 questions. It was like similar to it was kind of based on a Myers-Briggs personality test.
Yes.
We came up with a lot of like fun ranked questions. Me and my wife, we were just like writing out the questions, and we had fun with it. Some of them are pretty kind of humorous. And we started kind of working through different personality traits and just answering these quizzes to hit certain scores, because certain scores identify with certain personalities. And so we tried kind of answering the quizzes from the perspective or lens of somebody who kind of fell into that personality trait, to just kind of figure out a good way to create kind of an accurate test. And we did a bunch of iterations and some modifications. We did a few like test runs on it, found where the flaws were, kind of modified it a little bit so that it was more accurate. But it was a fun process. We used like a little bit of AI to create it. and some cool kind of algorithmic features that we built out. And it came out with like a really cool quiz that really accurately identified what people vibe with in terms of like the beasthood that they were going for. Like it would accurately determine, if they were into, music or fashion, or if they're a food lover. And we thought it was great. And rather than kind of selecting like one character at the end, we wanted to kind of make it percentage based, so that even if people didn't get their first choice on mint day, or kind of flip-flopping between some ideas, they'd have kind of an open-ended option, so that the end result would still be like ultimately in their hands. They would just be like light suggestions for what they should go for.
And another thing that I really enjoyed on the website, not only the color scheme, how everything was laid out, how smooth the website ran.
Oh, that's all Caleb. Caleb killed it on the color scheme.
That, to me, that was incredible. But let me tell you the other thing that really impressed me is in Beast Vision, which is sort of your roadmap, not sort of, it is your roadmap. I'll give you a quick example. Under physical, you say fashion, and what it says is exploring. I love that. And the reason it's discovery, because a lot of people in this space, it's always about selling the sizzle, which I always talk about, and then where is the steak? And the idea is saying, hey, this is sizzle. We're thinking about it. We don't know exactly what we're doing yet, but know that all the other things that we've delivered, stay confident, hold your beast, maybe grab some more beasts, engage. And the other thing is, I look at these different NFT communities that are top rank. Again, this last year was my course, my college course, and I look at the NFTs that I made good decisions on because I love the communities and the intelligent people in those communities. And then I also look at the ones that I just did it based on, hey, I can make a money play. That's not my strength. So I don't want to play that game. I want to play in a pit where you have the highest founders and leaders thinking and strategizing, operating like it's an orchestra, it's a band, and you know how the band plays. And after tonight's episode, and I talk to founders all the time. I am incredibly bullish on you. And, we are at the mercy. Yeah, we're at the mercy of crypto. And I get that, right? That's why I don't want to talk about, what can the price, or what do you, doesn't matter. It's if you're here and you're building and you're connecting with traditional products and services, and that digital asset has real life utility. And I do want to go back to the event that you threw, right? You said two things. It's a business suit and it's a dance suit, right? And so both of those play in tandem. And you were more aware at the very beginning, keep that music low, let people connect and network. And as we've been building our platform, it's about connecting, building those relationships. Because you only get, people are meeting you in person for the first time, even on this interview. There's an impression that you make, and you only get one chance to make a really good impression. Yeah, you might be able to come back and say, hey, remember we connected in this, or I have your, I'm into your community. When you look back, was there ever an impression? And I think this is sort of for the advice of the community, because you've done something at such a high level. Is there ever an impression you made on somebody who said, I could go back and I could do these things differently? Have you been able to revisit that and mend those conversations? I know it's sort of off the cuff, but I think it's
yeah, for sure. So I think about that all the time. Like I really wish I had a fucking clone sometimes, so I could just like have more like deep conversations with everybody, but it's literally like a time constraint. That's like my biggest problem, because like I could, in theory, just like spend all my time, talking to community members and kind of like learning about them each one by one. And like when I get to, it's fantastic, but like then nothing gets done in terms of like orchestrating teams and checking up on things and quality controlling stuff. So it's like a difficult balancing act. Like I've even made an effort to spend less time in spaces lately, just so I can make sure that like utility is getting rolled out on time and we're meeting deadlines that we set for ourselves. So yeah, it's kind of like, it's tricky. Like I want to give everybody my like full-time attention, because like everybody in the community that I meet is like an incredible human being. Like there's like so many talented people with like such great thoughts and ideas who like really understand the brand and the vision, and like they're like the ride or die kind of people you want in your corner. But just like finding the time to balance those conversations, because like I don't like to have like 1 minute conversations with people. I like to have like more extended conversations with people, so I can really get to the meat of what their ideas. Balancing that, like if 20 conversations, like 2 hours are gone, right? It's 2 hours that you could be like building out something for everybody in the community to use, right? Versus like a one-on-one conversation. So yeah, like I wish I could go back and like, and I know there's people in the community for sure that like want, more time and attention to be able to just like have one-on-one and be able to like ideate. But it's just like, for now, I think like we want to build something that will affect everybody. And once we've kind of built out these things, we can then, get back to the drawing board and like, individually talk to, all community members, get a feedback around like, how do they feel about what we've built? What can we expand on? What can we make better? And there's going to be like a round for that. Like, and I think it's just like, that's pretty much how like a lot of projects move and work that are successful. They work in phases. They have a build phase, and then they have a feedback phase and like an improvement phase and kind of an ideation phase where they like collect and, they find out, what everybody wants, how they want to improve things, look for new opportunities, and then they, go back to building. I think that's kind of like, we're in the strong build phase right now. Like over the next 30 to 90 days, we're going to roll out all of our utility items that we have planned. And then from there, it's going to be a matter of like, okay, let's find out what we can do better. Let's find additional new opportunities, and let's market what we have built. Let's get it out there. Let's get it out into the world. I feel like in the current stage, what we've built is cool, but it's not, super impressive to the point that somebody outside of the space would dive in head first and be like, this is amazing. I want to be able to do that. First and foremost, I want to have those items ready. I want to have a lot of our utility and roadmap items built out. At that point, I'll feel super confident in being able to go pitch anybody and say, you have to become a part of this project because we've done this, and this. There's all these great reasons to join. It's an over delivery of value. And so at that point, it makes a lot of sense to educate somebody outside and get them in, be able to onboard from several verticals, several angles, and be able to really expand upon, what the community is and what it's able to become.
Speaking really quick, speaking of, of onboarding, I'm just curious as a founder, what percentage of your time or just efforts or just the plan in general for a kit called Beast goes into onboarding new holders as opposed to, working with the current ones and giving them what they need. I'm just curious, like what percentage, 'cause I know for my company, a percentage goes to marketing, a percentage goes to just, managing the current business. I'm curious what, how that works for y'all in the Web3 space.
Right now, I'd say probably 15 or 20% of my time I spend on just like, talking to people, because you obviously have to maintain a level of relevance online. You can't just like fizzle out, disappear for several reasons. First off, you don't want people to think you're a rug. That's a big fear. As soon as people disappear for a few days, like it's like, and I don't blame people, like, because that's what typically happens if somebody disappears for a few days. Like we've seen so many rugs happen, right? So, making sure that I'm always like active at least daily, like, show a sign of life, so people know like I'm still here, like I'm checking in. But two, like also, there's always new people you're going to meet in spaces and different conversations. You're going to meet like a lot of intelligent people in this space. That's what I love about, Web3. Like when you get in good conversations with people, like you'll learn a lot. There's a lot of value exchange. And so like being able to introduce, new people to the project's always, a priority. Like I'm like, the number one advocate of what we're building, because like I'm proud of what we're building. I trust what we're building. I know what we're building is good. But yeah, as far as like the majority of my time, I spend it, compiling with teams, coming up with new angles and learning, who we can onboard to, complete tasks, because I can't do everything by myself. No one on the team can. So finding the right people that can be trusted to complete a task they say they're going to complete, it's been a challenge. Like staffing is like the hardest part, I would say. Finding like people that are dependable and reliable, who can, say they can do something and then actually be able to do it. Like that's been tricky. It takes a lot of time to find people like that. You have to rotate through a lot of talent to find the right talent for a specific project, right? And so I feel that the team we have in place now is super good. We have everybody that we need to complete the roadmap items, and like we're making a ton of progress on the things that we are building out. And we've had to replace a few components with other components that we found were better or create more value for our holders. I think we're in a really good place. Like I'm really happy with like the community we have now, because the community we have now is like the real holders. They're the people that weren't just in speculating on price. And I think like that's super important, because the people that have resolve in a project and people that will look at it as like a more of a long-term investment, which is what we've always said we are. Like we're definitely not a the 1 month or the 1 year play. Like we're building for the next 5-10 years minimum. And so like making sure that people's expectations are with that in mind, in terms of like how we're going to get to becoming, a significant IP. It's going to take that amount of time. we have advantages in, like, for acceleration because of the technology and like how we're all connected, and we have a very strong community, which, you know, a lot of projects never find in the way we do. So I think we'll speed up the rate at which we can become a significant IP. It's not going to take us 100 years like it took Disney, you know. But I think, yeah, I'm like content with where we're at right now. Like I'm content with like the daily progress we're making. Like we're taking on a lot of stuff, and we're like getting very close to delivery mark on a lot of the items. And like once we start hitting that first delivery mark, it's going to feel like things are always changing, always happening, because there's like a rollout here that just finished, a rollout here that just finished. It's going to feel like really like sequential at that point. I'm just waiting for that point where people are like, finally, we have like a lot of this stuff, and I can knock off all the roadmap items that we said we're going to deliver on. I'm going to feel really good at that point, because at that point, everything and above and beyond what we kind of plan to do will feel like bonus. It'll feel really healthy, and kind of like I'll have a really clear conscience on it.
And by the
I just think I want to deliver on everything that we said we're going to do.
I love that you said, and going back to that real quick, you said, you know, if there was a chance that, you know, when you're at a party and you've got a lot of people around and they're converging on all the founders, like again, they're excited to see you, connect with you. And I love how you approached it from an egoless standpoint, right? Which is, I wish I could give my time equally to everybody and hear from each person in the community, understand why they're here, what their pulse is on Web3. And this space moves so incredibly fast. The joke, I guess, is, at least amongst us, and when I'm talking to Ralph, there's always something new. I mean, listen, I just learned tonight about Adidas and that artist. I don't touch negativity. I don't want to. But to me, it's one of those things where you approach it from egoless. And then you also talked about rotation, right? So you'll put somebody in a particular spot, say with the Beast Vision, you know, your roadmap, and you'll have made a decision to put somebody in a position to execute on said task. At what point do you go, and I'm just asking this question sort of in general, leadership question, at what point do you go, is it 24 hours in, 48 hours in? Like, at what point do you look and go, okay, I need to move you to another place. I'm glad to have you here on our team, but that wasn't the right pick for us. Is that a cumulative decision? Do they realize it? What does that conversation look like when you've made sort of a bad choice, but the great choice is that they're with you? They're just not in the right spot.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's like, you know, team conversations, and like every personality is different to deal with. Everybody reacts in different ways. You're dealing with people from all over the world, from all walks of life, all different upbringings. So it's a challenge. Like, and I hate having difficult conversations with people. It's like the worst. Like it doesn't like make me feel good to have a difficult conversation with somebody. But like, you know, we try to give as many people as we can the opportunity to shine and like, you know, show that they're good at their craft. And like sometimes we find like rock stars, like, and we try to hire only internally from within the community. I can't think of an instance where we haven't hired somebody who is like a holder or somebody that's been like involved in the community since day one. We try to hire exclusively from the community, and like most of the time it works out really, really well, because like by the time it's time to like hire somebody, they've already kind of shown a conviction and like a devotion. They understand the brand. They've like demonstrated that they are, you know, somebody who's capable of delivery, like somebody who's capable of like a task or a requirement or a need. And so like we've been like really fortunate that way, and I think we're going to continue doing things in that way because it's worked out very well for us. We've been able to avoid like a lot of like standard pitfalls of like try somebody out and like having to like go learn a completely like outside person's personality that might not you know, resonate with the brand or resonate with like what we're trying to do. Like a lot of the people who have been with the project for like, you know, a certain amount of time, they understand like the brand story, they understand kind of the character vision, they have like a really clear idea of like where we're headed and what we're trying to do. So for them to articulate on the work that needs to be done, like it's kind of like second nature for them. In a lot of cases, people will just like kind of voluntarily start, you know, building stuff and then, you know, end up with a job, you know, working with us. That's kind of like how it's been a lot of the time. Whenever there's like a hard conversation, you know, we're upfront with people. We just warn them and say like, hey, you know, this part isn't, you know, or somebody's upset with this, or this part's like not working out.
Yeah.
Could you maybe work on this? Just to like, you know, give people a chance for change, right? You can't just like,
yeah,
you know, chop people like that. Like you have to give people an opportunity to say like, my bad, like I'll fix it, or like I'll work on it, or like everybody deserves a chance to like work on their mistakes or work on problems, and like nobody's perfect from the get-go, right? Like everybody's in a constant state of, ideally everyone's in a constant state of improvement perpetually, right?
Yeah.
So like, give people the opportunity. And if things just continue not to work out, or there's like displacement, or like, the expectations are like, I don't know, not being like rendered to the best of somebody's abilities, or somebody's like just not like, trying, like at that point, it's just like, we appreciate you. Like we want you to, hang out and continue in the community, but just like, we have to like, this isn't for us, right? We're doing this for, thousands of people. We have to be able to deliver on this. And so like, we'll have to find somebody else to be able to deliver on it at that point.
Yeah. It's
luckily we haven't had to have that conversation like too many times.
It's nice hiring from within, because you get people, especially people who've been there for a while. You get people who understand, who really can relate to the the message.
It's tricky though too, because you never want to hurt somebody's feelings, especially
right, because you don't want to burn the bridge with someone who's
it's like the same thing of like they tell you like, don't date your friends,
right,
because like you might not ever get that friendship back if things don't work out.
Right.
Same kind of thing as like you do friends with business, you might lose a friendship over it, and it's just like, at very least you want to maintain the friendship. Is it worth losing a friendship over?
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword, right? Luckily,
either way. But Ralph, you approach, I think, from the inner circle, right? You talk about, the emotions sometimes can flare out, and that's something that we all work on. By the way, myself included. But when you're working on the inside of the circle, and you're approaching from an egoless standpoint, but you're also communicating with a high level of transparency, and you're saying, hey, there's some smoke signals. And I think that's great for the team. And I think when I say that, I mean the community of holders, people who are investing, but also are building a brand on that. And maybe you can just explore it for a little bit IP. I love that, because it keeps those strong relationships in place. So if something doesn't work out, they're either moved to another position, or, hey, stay part of our family, but this connection doesn't work for the goals that we're trying to accomplish. So I love how you articulated that.
Can we
Craig,
Go ahead. Quick, before we get to the next, that actually is, I think, for me, I think that's a utility right there, is having a project that, has this, long, this objective of being long-term successful, successful long-term. And they're hiring from within. To me, like as a potential holder who, for me, I'm a content creator, someone like me who has skill sets, and they think like, I want to work in Web3. I think that the best way of doing it is just to get involved in a project. I work full time as a content creator already, and the reason I'm doing that is because I was a member at a place first, and I gave some great ideas, and they loved it, and then try it, and then it eventually turned into a full-time job. I think that having a company like yours, that I personally think is going to have long-term success, is also hiring from within. That's utility for holders right there.
That's the best way to find your dream job too, right? Just like just volunteer doing stuff, and eventually you'll find your dream job. Like my very first job, I was like running around hand selling tickets to events like all over the city. I didn't even have a driver's license. I was like delivering tickets for cash, like on public transit with my wife.
Love it.
My girlfriend at the time.
When I worked in restaurants, like the easiest way to become a server is to become a busser first in that in that restaurant, and then work your way up, as opposed to just
exactly work your way up the chain of command. Like deliver first, demonstrate that you are like capable, and you will be able to climb the ranks just by being capable. It's not that difficult.
I want to talk about IP within the community, and how some of your beasts are doing incredible derivatives, whether it's a product or service. Do you have any sort of examples off the top of your head concerning IP as it concerns a kid called Beast?
Yeah, definitely. So we have James is building something really, really cool behind the scenes right now. I think it's going to be a really cool IP play. I can't talk too much about it, but people that come to mind right off the top, West Ghost. He's built an incredible identity using his IP. He's created an amazing like character and voice, and like an entire artist act based on his West Ghost character, and he like makes incredible music. We've had another community member also, create a line of air fresheners, which I thought were really cool. Beastly Breeze, and I think that's just like such a simple and clever way to utilize IP. Something that everybody I think needs, just like a car freshener. Like it's a disposable common item that people will buy again and again if they like it. And it's, a new brand that they can identify with, something that's low cost to create and has a high margin of profitability, right? Beyond that, there's a lot of people that are like looking at doing their own toys, kids books. I mean, sky's the limit, really. Like I've seen people, working on like independent solo video games too. 3D printing businesses. Like, you know, Mozzie, for example, told me that he was like doing really well. Like in a time where he really needed the help, he was doing a ton of commissions of 3D prints and artist prints for people. Because he had a 3D printer and he was, you know, a talented artist. He was able to take on a bunch of commissions and you know, make a bit of a living off just like making toy models for people that he would ship all around the world. So yeah, no, I think like, you know, the economy is still, I think, pretty much in its infancy, but I think the potential of it's being really realized. Like there's a lot that can be done with this. And like, as people kind of dive deeper into the ecosystem, you know, they're going to explore, you know, different things. The nice thing is like, we're going to build out a lot of the reputation and infrastructure so that licensing this in the future will make a lot of sense. You know, once we kind of build out the initial components, we can go hit a, you know, large company like, you know, Retail Monster or any of the other kind of licensing companies and say, here's what we have so far. You know, here's what we've done with sales. You know, here's where our products are displayed. Where else can you take this? You know, here's, you know, some great IPs to use. Another one that came to mind, we have a No Signal. His IP is going to appear in both a video game, and he started an events company as well, where he basically does like events for like Web3. Basically where he's, you know, brings people together, brings music acts together. So he launched an event company based off his character. I think that's really, really cool. I think like
that's powerful.
You know, this early on in the project, you know, we're like 5 months past launch and people are already starting to like, you know, utilize and build things with their IP. Like this project that launched like 2 years ago that still don't have IP rights for their holders. They don't have like a legal document that lets people know what they can or cannot create with their IP.
I want to throw this. I want to throw this to you. That was a great answer on IP. It's quite extensive, and I'm going to go back and listen to it, and then try to follow all of the individuals that you spoke of and how they're creating livings around their IP through A Kid Called Beast and being such a strong and powerful community. So here's what we're going to do at the very end. Right now, we're to tip, and I so appreciate your time and going well past a half an hour for us. Is we're going to do two things. One is rapid fire questions from MetaMat, which means rapid fire questions, rapid fire answers, and then at the end we're going to close it out, and we're going to stay in Twitter Spaces hang. You can either hang or go do your other things, which is, I know you're super busy, but I want to just start it off on a first rapid fire question for you, which is, how do you manage patience?
Oh man, that's a hard one. Like I'm somebody who I would say struggles with patience. I think I really got good at being patient when I got into like trading and investing. That's something I really tested my patience, because there's points where you literally have to stare at a chart for hours upon end, waiting for the right opportunity for, you know, certain news event, for certain, you know, kind of financial things to occur, certain conditions to occur. And that would sometimes mean just sitting and kind of camping out, so to speak, like waiting, you know, patiently for hours on end until that right opportunity and that right kind of circumstance open itself up so that you can make money, so that you can, you know, enter an opportunity. You know, a lot of the investments, like my best investments that I've ever made in my life, have been patience games. They've been, you know, strong conviction, belief fundamentally in, you know, whatever a product or service is, and the waiting game. Like having a fast win, like that to me has almost been exclusively a gamble. Like anytime you can win something fast, you can lose it just as quickly. And if you kind of approach, you know, investments from that mentality, you're not really investing, you're gambling. You can't even like kid yourself and call it an investment. I think, you know, it's better to, you know, look at things for a long-term play. And there's obviously, you know, success stories that happen where, you know, you get something for, you know, 0.1 ETH and it rockets up to an extraordinary, phenomenal amount. Like there's always going to be stories of that too. You're going to always hear stories of people winning, you know, vehicles in raffles, homes in raffles, lottery tickets, having the right 6 or 7 numbers and striking, you know, generational wealth. Like it happens, but you cannot base like a general investment kind of storyline or narrative on these, you know, one-off stories that do hit news. There's a reason they hit the news. There's a reason people are talking about them. It's because they're, you know, extraordinary events. They're one-offs. They're life-changing things that happen to people. If everybody, you know, had these life-changing things that happen to them in terms of investments, like it just that's not how the real world works. Like it's a very much a zero-sum game. There's a loser typically on every side of a, you know, a financial asset trade.
And by the way, we could at another time we could dive into EQ, IQ, emotional intelligence. Is incredibly important. I think that's vastly more important.
That's something I've been working on, like very, very diligently, because like I feel like
me too, my friend.
I think I'm a very intelligent person, but like emotionally, like I've never like really dove deep into like kind of unlocking, you know, how to manage like my feelings or emotions. Like I'm very passionate person. I put my heart and soul into everything I do. Like I put my best effort forward, and I try to treat people the way I want to be treated. Right. And I think by just, following that kind of approach, I found a lot of success in my life just doing that. Yeah. It just feels, very like if everybody treated each other well, if everybody, was respectful of each other and kind of followed that approach, it would be a utopia.
Absolutely.
So I try to lead in the way I want to, kind of see the world ideally. But, like I'm like a regular Web3 person too. I've been jaded. I've seen a lot of bullshit. I've seen a lot of people do bullshit to each other. I feel like some of it like has corrupted my sense of like, what people's good intent is, which sucks. I hate that part. Like that I have to assume that somebody's like, guilty until proven innocent in this space where, prior to getting so involved in it, it was the opposite. I would assume people had, good intent.
Yep.
And I was very naive.
And I just want to shoot this to you real quick. Two things I just want to end on for you and I, and then I'd love you to say space, but again, depending, and I want Matt to hit you with rapid fire questions for rapid fire answers. But I think the thing that I do, that my little trick is I root for your success and I don't ask for anything. And if I get something, I'm grateful and I cherish that and I build on that. And that's sort of been my little secret.
Yeah, that's solid.
And so again, it's an honor to have you here. And Raf, I just want, if I can, Matt, hit him with some rapid fire.
I'll be quick this time because I like to elaborate.
No, this is a called relationship building. I love it. I'm honored. To me, this is my utopia being here with you.
That's why you're a great host.
Thank you, my friend.
All right. So my first question, because I was at the Kid Called Beast NFT NYC event. I was there with my buddy Cade Bergman. He said he got to meet you. Obviously, not including Cade. Who did you meet at the NFT NYC event that really stood out to you that you didn't expect to?
I mean, there's a lot of people. Like, I don't know. I thought it was super funny seeing like, a lot of these guys like, K Money and Thread Guy and stuff, just like hanging out in their own element, just like not being like hosts, they're not like being Spaces hosts. They're just partying. They're just hanging out. I thought that was like really funny to see. Like, oh, these guys they're just bros. They're just like the homies.
They were cool.
I thought that was cool to see people just like in a natural element and not being like, the host, like the animated kind of characters in that way. And like, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say like they're not as animated in real life. Like they're just as cool in real life. But I think that was fun to see. And just like all the characters and like the voices, like I knew and kind of recognized in the space, like from the Kid Called Beast community, it was just dope to be able to put a face to a name and just be able to be like, oh my God, like I recognize your voice. What's going on? Like, it was just, cool to be able to just like see everybody face to face and just hang out for like a kind of celebration of like, hey, here we are, like we're all in New York at the same time, let's have fun. And like, all the drinks are free, so that also helps.
That didn't hurt.
yeah so like, no, it was cool. Good music, good vibes. Like we give out like over 300 clothing items. Wow. That are just like circulating out there and with like chips and stuff in them, so they have like augmented reality features. Like we did a lot of like really fun stuff. We were like live silk screening t-shirts. I mean, there's a lot of really cool stuff that was there. Like, I don't know. I thought that was like a really good night. It was left a really good feeling for me, like in Web3, because like it was a lot of turmoil up until that point. When we finally did that, it was like, there's like really cool bright side to this whole sometimes dark, evil ecosystem.
And honestly, that was my personal favorite party, in the Web3 in real life scenario. So I'm curious if you can collab for a in real life, live in-person event with any other project to collab, a Kid Called Beast collabs with XYZ live event, who would it be and why?
Oh man, that's so hard I couldn't pick one. There's a lot of really strong communities that I support and that I like and I enjoy. Like if I can go on Alien Friends, Space Riders, Invisible Friends, like Zuki, D-Gods, Pudgy Penguin, Sappy Seals. Like I'm sure I'm gonna miss like a ton of people, so I don't even want to keep listing them. Like everybody, every project that I hold, and every project that I like had good encounters with their founders, good encounters with their community members, like anybody that's actually building something with like utility that has like even a 2-year plan, I'd be happy to collaborate.
You mentioned the gods. Would you do a shoey with Frank?
Hell yeah, I do issue with.
Hell yeah. No, I love it. All right, next question. What do you prefer? Because I know that you've traded before. I personally am in the trading industry. I love trading, even prior to NFTs. What do you prefer to trade? I know you trade Forex at one point. Do you prefer that over stocks, over crypto, NFTs? Oh, gold?
Stocks, I only invest fundamentally. I don't look at technicals for stocks. So like very long-term plays for
Long term
stocks.
then, yeah, I was going to say.
Long-term investment in gold, but also a really great trading asset for every time there's like a global risk scenario. I found that gold reacts really, really well.
Are you bullish on lithium? I know that you were talking about the precious metals and all that kind of other stuff.
Yeah, no, I never dived into any of that. Mostly gold, a little bit of like oil. But yeah, foreign exchange. Like I made a lot of money in foreign exchanges, especially during COVID. There's like a lot of fundamentals that just worked really flawlessly for making money, being able to short and long against different currency pairs. Like the fundamentals are super clear. You had a fantastic. I mean, you guys always have erratic presidents. No offense, but you guys had a president that would we just spew off on Twitter. So it was like really good for being able to just kind of time market movements and kind of like pit that against countries that have just like a different approach of doing things. And so yeah, it was really easy to make money during that time. Anytime there's like really volatile fundamentals from like country leaders or like global events, you can like, if you can find a situation where you can find stability and then find risk and compare those those kind of contrasts, there's a great opportunity to make money. And so like for example, if foreign exchange, like I was doing a ton of shorts for like GBP NZD because like New Zealand was like the first country to close their borders as soon as like there's this virus that was circulating around. Like we didn't know what it was, but I assumed kind of like, okay, if there's this unknown virus, we don't know what it does yet, we don't know how lethal it is, and it's spreading, the first country that closes its borders and stops the spread is going to be the first country's economy that's going to be open, right? So banking on that and going basically against like a more contrast situation, like the British pound, where they just kept everything kind of wide open in the UK and the United States, that was a short opportunity for me. And I would like look at retail sentiment. I would look at how the retail's position and basically see like, okay, the retail market of traders is doing pretty much the opposite of what my idea is. This is a great idea. So like that's pretty much how I made like a ton of money during COVID and beyond. Just watching charts, looking at retail sentiment, and then trusting fundamentals. Because like the way banks move, they're not trying to make money; they're just trying to preserve capital. So a lot of banks and institutions, what they're trying to do is they're just trying to park their funds in the safest country possible and the safest assets possible. Because by doing that, they're kind of making money in contrast, in comparison to the other assets that have volatility or that are facing inflation. So that's pretty much like the kind of approach I would take is like, where's the safest place to park money? Because if you park money in a safe place, when you go convert it back into another currency, you've made money because of the volatility and the risk of the other places that's being parked. And so like taking that philosophy of like the fundamental trading and combining with like knowing that retail traders usually lose their trades. And we know it's a zero-sum game. We know trading is a zero-sum game. If 90% of traders are trying to take a move, it's very likely to assume that 90% are going to lose money. That's just the logic of how the market works. So if I do the opposite of what the majority are doing, and I'm fundamentally sound, I have a winning trade idea that I can use to make a ton of money. I can just keep printing.
I know that Easy Eats Bodega is really bullish on the currency from Singapore. I'm curious. So speaking of Easy Eats, I know you're mentioning Thread Guy. When it comes to Twitter Spaces, as you are a founder of a project. If you were a founder right now, or if you were a founder of a project that's about to launch right now, and it was launch day, who would you want to go on as far as the Twitter Spaces go to get the max exposure and just the most real exposure, if that makes sense?
That's tough.
Besides CraigO's Crypto Corner, of course.
I think you can't pick like any one. I think you gotta, I mean, the ecosystem right now is like pretty small, I would say overall. Like a lot of people that were here for the wrong reasons left. The people that are, pretty real are what we have left over. I mean, there's obviously still a lot of grifters and a lot of people that will just kind of come in and take advantage of people and try to capitalize on people or insult their intelligence by thinking they're fucking stupid and that they'll invest in dog shit because of hype. I think, it's good to, find people that are consistent. They're authentic. Their messaging is, doesn't change. It doesn't face drastic changes in like a negative way or in like a inauthentic way, and the messaging stays very similar throughout the course of like what they're doing and what they're advocating for, and building relationships with those people, providing value to those people, not just shilling a project, but like coming in and supporting those people in their own endeavors, and doing the rounds. Like I think there's a lot of people in this space that offer different kind of value sets that reach different crowds. Everyone has their own audiences. There's some overlap, but like the best thing you can do as a founder is just try to make friends with as many different spaces hosts as possible. Everybody's got their unique audiences, their unique flavor, and their unique take on things, and being able to kind of mesh in and integrate and becoming a part of the big family is like the best way to do it.
So I have a whole bunch of more questions for you, but I'm sure that we have like a whole 95 people in the spaces. Well, I'm sure they also have a bunch as well, or just probably just some comments.
Yeah, I get swapped in and just like
I heard that we're probably going to be, Craig, we're going to be hanging out with everyone in the spaces for a little bit and just kind of jostling around.
Let's go in the Twitter spaces and let Rafsby and the community, let's all connect. So I just want to say, in closing out our podcast episode, Rafsby, it's just an honor to have you on.
No, thanks for having me. No, it was good. It was like thorough. You guys asked a ton of cool questions.
It's nice hearing a project founder who knows what they're talking about when it comes to not just Web3, but also just like running a business. Because this is so refreshing. It was like when you had Kevin DeGods on. It's like, oh, it's not just a PFP project after all.
Oh no, Kevin's genius. Like
Yes.
that guy's like, he knows how to run a business. Same with Luca. Like Luca's like that guy's like a businessman. Like
yes,
like there's no shit they're doing so well.
Top 5 conversations, by the way, and I won't name the other two, so that way I'm not like, it would be you, Raf, it would be Kevin DeGods, and it would be Ralph Quintero, Steve Miller, and I'm not going to mention the 5th, just so that way whoever's
they think it's them, but you never know.
There you go. Opportunity to climb in.
That's smart. That's smart. You say I have top 5, but here's the 4.
I come with the fundamentals. I know the emotion. The technical, don't ask me. Let's go to Twitter Spaces and wrap this up. Thank you so much for watching CraigO's Crypto Corner, the best in Web3, blockchain, NFT, and cryptocurrency technologies. CraigO signing off.